If you want your hips to feel less painful, more strong and connected, then you also have to address your foot. Because the rotation happening at your foot, or this supination and pronation, is going to affect what happens upstream with the internal and external rotation of your hip. So I'm going to show you two movements which help you understand how torque travels up and down from the feet and ground to the hips and trunk. Now, bearing in mind we evolved from monkeys, right? We used to externally rotate more. We used to have thumbs as big toes, and we would hold on to trees like this. We would be climbing up a palm tree or something with the knees out, grabbing and moving our legs down the tree to go up. So Tailor's pose is how we're going to train that ability. You're going to be pressing your feet together and drawing your knees to the floor using your glutes. And then you're going to be lifting up against the pressure of your hands using your inner thighs and TFL. Now for the next movement, you're going to be working on internal rotation, which is the opposite of that monkey thing. We're better internal rotators now, so we pronate, or internally rotate, to create forward motion. That's why we can run upright, more powerful than a monkey can. So if you lie on your back, what you're going to do is place a block between your knees and then internally rotate by spreading your heels apart while driving in through your thighs into that block. Now, how do these two movements correspond to something like walking or squatting? Well, when you're creating more of an arch, this supination or external rotation, you're going to notice that there's a connection from this medial line of the foot all the way up the inner thigh, and you want to feel that from your pelvic floor all the way to the ground. So that's kind of this sort of squat, right? Which makes sense because if you think about climbing a tree, you're kind of in this position. I can't really recreate it. But if you're working in internal rotation with pronation of the foot, that's going to be less like hugging in and more like spreading out. So that means that you're going to be coiling into your arch. It's going to flatten out a bit, and you're going to be driving outward through the floor. So this is an example of how we might explode off this way. We're going to be using that arch as a spring as we internally rotate the hip. So by squeezing the block, you're getting that action, and by squeezing the feet together on Tailor's pose, you're getting that hugging in action, which would be more like going this way. See this? So one variation is pulling in, and the other variation is pushing out. So here we're working on hugging up the medial line, and here we're working on spreading through the lateral line. So in the beginning, I find it helpful to isolate those movements so you can feel what needs to happen and what muscles are working. But then the next stage is to integrate it into something like a squat or like walking or like a lateral hop, so you can see how that new range of motion and body awareness relates to a more real, slightly chaotic scenario. And as you get better at managing that, you won't need to go back and do those two initial exercises all the time just to feel good in your hips, because you'll be using those muscles, ranges, and awareness through your day, and everything will become practice.